Well, hello everyone. You here to show you the elementary school email. You say is talk about it's like a coloring that I went ahead and say it did right here, and you see right here is say a few say examples. You say about letters that what I went ahead and wrote it was. You say back then, of course, don't even have at least right now, don't even have those letters with me. But I can remember that I was talking to someone as knowing about that I can still remember the fact that whenever I was in elementary school it was the fifth grade actually. It was the fifth grade, going on to sixth grade over there at the Becky David Elementary School, and of course whenever I transferred from Consley to Becky David, is knowing about that. I can remember my first time using an email, writing an email, is that I did not even have an email. Of course, I do know family did not even have a computer, but I remember getting on one of the computers, and of course, that I can remember also that the computer would be at about right here in one classroom, that they had a printer in a separate room. But I remember one computer that they had me on, and that they would have like video games on there and stuff like that that you could play with. A lot of times, like I mentioned before, a lot of times like during the recess time that I can remember that I wanted to get on the computer if I had any free time, that wanted to, the types of games that I'm sure most of us here are familiar with, like games on PC games, such as I remember that I don't even know if they make those games anymore, but the games like Cannon Fire, and of course Gold Digger, and then of course there was a few other games. Of course, I think that they were available only on, say, I think on a Macintosh. I think Mac would have made them at the time or something like that, supported them, or as. But other than that knowing about, you had Gold Digger, and then of course a few other games, and the bus ride and stuff like that, and then a few other games too that I remember playing on the PC. It was, but it just kind of draw an example, because I don't have any of those PC games. Of course, I just remember just a few titles of them. But other than that, is one of the things I can remember doing on the computer, of course, was doing email. And of course, most of us would probably think about back in early, I would say about March of 1995. March, I think. If I remember right, March 1995 is around that time, whenever I would have been, say, a fifth grader at the time, over there at Becky David, and just knowing about getting on the computers, it is, and that knowing about that, that they said that there was a teacher over there at the school at Cosley Elementary that knew me, and that no one asked if you want to go ahead and send send her an email. And so I can remember that sitting in front of the desk, the keyboard would could look kind of like this. It's like of course that was before, I guess, that they had a mouse at the time. They had like what you call, say, a little move them, roll them. I say mouse. It is a computer mouse. It was that where you can where you can move, and then you move the arrows. It's like on the screen it was where you can move the arrows, and but move, say, with the say the sensor cursor, is like with, say, moving the arrows. But other than that you have it to where that you got the keyboard right here, and I can remember that you got the up, down, left, and right arrows, you to be able to move. Don't remember all the detail. If I can remember right, that there was a type of a source to where that you got the left, down, left, right, you say arrows, it is. And just knowing about that, you type in on the email, it is it's like you click send, or say end if you want to send an email. And then of course you got right here is the notes. It is, you got right here is the letters that of course that I will be sending off to the teacher. It was, but I don't have those, that not around at least. But basically the email would look like this here. That there would be like a place where you can type a letter. It is, and you would have these buttons right here. It's like you send and end, and see here, send, and of course if you want to add, like you say, just say that those normal things that you would see like on the Windows edition. It was that you see right here is you got T, capital T for uppercase or underline, it is. But other than that you have for email, it is that that it's like that that I don't even really know about what program I was using, but I can remember writing the teacher an email, and then the teacher would sit by me, and then of course it would write and say that what do you want to say to the teacher, and then of course I would type in. I would look at the keyboard and then type in, and then I would ask where a key was, and then she would tell me. But it's like you're talking about if I wanted to type in a K or a C or anything like that, and just write a letter to her, and she would tell me to click on click say I guess nowadays they call it by compost, click compost or send or everything, and go through the emails service to be able to send to the teacher. It's like, and I can remember that the first time I used it, knowing about that, they get on the computer and then they send an email, and just knowing about I get that email, and just knowing about is that the things that I can maybe remember a little bit is knowing about that say hi, and if you want to say hi to the teacher, it is. But if I can remember right, 2 hours later after that, then I can remember that she had gotten a response back from the teacher, and I would always think that that with that teacher it was that knowing about whenever I was her student at one time, and just knowing about that, it seemed like she didn't really like me very much, because it seemed like I was always a distraction. I would laugh and smile a lot during class, and sometimes I would just not do my work maybe like I was supposed to, whatever it was. But I can remember that I was talking about is that it's like that a lot of times it was like memorizing it, knowing is that the phone number. It's like either if it was the phone number, or say email address, or it could have been a home address. It is. A lot of times the teachers would not have this information on file. It is that maybe at the schools nowadays that they would maybe have it on file, but other than that that they would not, that like the phone number. I remember that I've given them the phone number that my family and I used to have, of course, at least 4 or 5 times. Of course, whenever they call my mom and be like, hey, how's it going, and knowing about she may think about that that maybe I'm calling to say that well, Matt hasn't been doing his work or whatever, and come home and get all straightened out or whatever. But other than that I was saying that I'm like, hey, I don't remember the number, but I would assume I can remember giving her the number. But if I remember 9446, I think it was something like that was the last 4 digits. But other than that, all that other stuff I think kept confidential. But other than that is that the knowing about is that with the teachers, that knowing about is like my point is knowing about my point. But other than that is like with the teachers, it was like that that they needed to talk to a legal guardian, or if they need to talk to a legal guardian or a parent or whoever, and just knowing about that hey, well, in order to be able to make the phone call, we need to know your number. And I remember a couple times that they would get mad at me for not bringing something to my mom or my dad, or say parents or whoever, and just knowing about, hey, that you were supposed to have your mom sign the form and bring it back. It is. And that they look at me as like maybe irresponsible, whatever maybe the teachers may think. It's like, but maybe not all the time. At times, I guess you have your issues, I guess, with your teachers. But other than that I remember that that one time, it's like knowing about it's like, since I have like if most of us have seen, I got Skype. I have like 9 different phones, 9 or 10 different phones, say around the house. It is, and knowing about that, it's like how do you keep track of all those numbers? It is, and just knowing about with me that, hey, that how do you memorize that maybe all the codes, and how do you memorize all the passwords and stuff like that. And but knowing about with me that I guess good question, but on the other hand too, I just really think the whole matter of getting used to it is just knowing about is that maybe if you were to look at the screen, kind of like this, and just knowing about that maybe there was a mathematical problem that you typed in, you say on the calculator it is, and just knowing about that, it's like you say 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 equals, say 88 or 888 or 8,888, whatever it is known about you to be like a type of math problem you can probably think about. It's like, yeah, you remember doing that math problem, right, on a calculator, and then you may remember the password as well, whatever it is. But other than that, is talking about with the email though, that I can remember whenever I had my glasses on, that I can remember being up there at the school, and then they would let me get on the computers, and I remember I was explaining to somebody that I like getting on the computers and playing games other than really going out to the playground. What was the reason? Of course, like I mentioned before, was that due to the fact that hey, that a lot of kids would always pick on me about not doing something right, not playing along right with all the other kids. And it seemed like that whenever I would play games on the computer, that I kind of just would play them my own way instead of having to worry about being bothered by anybody either. But other than that, with email though, is that I can remember that that was like my first time I sent an email, was whenever they would let you get onto them at school was, and that'd be writing to a teacher at another school building it is. And just knowing about how to the things that you maybe want to write down what you want to say is like I think one things I did say was have a girlfriend, that I got a girlfriend, and I can remember she wrote back saying well, I'm sure she's probably cute. And then I can also remember saying that that I I'm making good grades. I'm making good grades, and moving on to the 7th grade. It was moving to 7th grade. See if that was back in 95, maybe 96, 97, whatever it was. But I can remember saying that, of course, on the email. But then, of course, right below, go ahead and say it's like talk about this reply. That about 2 hours later, the teacher, whenever I went into the class, said that the teacher replied, back saying that that I can remember the letter saying I'm sure. Sure, I was your favorite teacher. I'm sure I was your favorite teacher. It was, and just knowing about that, hey, that I'm sure I was your favorite teacher. And I'm like, yeah, well, it seemed like yeah. It seemed like, not so sure. If they, really, that because I know I made quite a few friends over there at Consley, but it seemed like the teachers, the teacher, that I had over there, it's like knowing about the hey, that actually you were pretty annoying, and I had to talk to your parents, every once in a while about how well you were doing in school. And every once in a while, that knowing about that, you would make a B, you say on your math work or whatever you call it. Maybe that you missed a few times, multiplication tables, whatever it was. But other than that knowing about, it's like with B is between a C, B, and A. It is. I think a lot of times I would make a C at times, but other than that is knowing about with our emails is knowing about that if you're going to say something, at least say hi to somebody. But I can remember that was one of the very first times I used an email, and of course the way I got written down right here, of course, will be kind of like what you say is kind of an example of what the email address, what the email service looked like. Because if I remember right, I think it was the IBM, I think was the name of, was the make of the computers that they had you IBM anyway. Yeah, that usually it would be like I and then be and BM, but I got those referred anyway. But really, trying to concentrate on different things here from what I remember. Anyway, but you have for IBM, it's like that type of computer right there, and then that knowing about the name brand it was. But on the other hand, too, the knowing about the first time that I used a computer was, I can remember, was at the school, and I could probably think about that with most kids, if they would have that opportunity to where they can actually get on a computer, which I know quite a few of them do, that's with technology nowadays, is knowing about it, that they can send an email. And my opinion about it is like, if you're going to have a kid get on an email and just maybe writing to somebody about something, say works much faster, of course, than postal mail, but of course you may have to mail something eventually. But on the other hand, I really just think that gives maybe the kid some experience of knowing about how it works, and then maybe to know about the fact about maybe that's something that makes the work a little bit maybe exciting, maybe hard. I know a lot of teachers probably think about is like that knowing about that really, if you can really get through life, get through if you can really get through life thinking, if it's too hard, if it's too hard, then forget it. But on the other hand, too, the way I think about it is by saying it's like no, don't forget it. Don't forget it. But on the other hand, too, to work on it. Because on the other hand, too, that knowing about, I guess you can't really get through life thinking about if something's going to be hard, then then maybe you can't do it. But other than that, is knowing about there may be some things that maybe you don't want to do that more likely you may have to learn and stuff. And really, what do you have to say about that? The things that maybe you don't want to do, but then you have to do them. It's like with the teachers. The teachers, if I think about, don't want to go to the meeting, but I have to. It's talking about, it's like this change in the school board or whatever. But the teachers, I used to greet each other just by saying, see you later, alligator, and farewell, crocodile. Like, I did not, tell later. Other than that, for so far as the elementary school email memories is knowing about, is like, that knowing about, it's like that they asked me at least 4 or 5 times, thinking about that you asked me already. It's like, hey, hey man, it's like, well, what's your home phone number? I like to talk to your parents, I like to talk to your mom or your dad about something. And next thing you know, it's like, well, I told you already. And then I tell somebody, I'm like, if I can't remember all what the number was, but if I can remember, 9446, I think was last 4 digits, something like that. But alright, and that is talking about, probably thinking about that, the student cannot remember a certain moment from a certain time. It's knowing about, you remember that this assignment, this assignment was due. It was due today. You don't remember me telling you last week? You don't remember me telling you last week that this assignment was due? It's like you got right here for chapter. See, chapter 13. Talk about maybe with cells, stem cells. It could be a science project, or it could be it's talking about, it's like for English project, or say science, say history project, whatever it is. It's like that assignment was due. It's like it said it's due on Tuesday, and you don't remember me saying that. Well, you got a doctor's appointment. You gotta go to a doctor because you don't remember, or you can't have your snack, or you can't have your recess time, because you didn't turn in your assignment or whatever. But on the other hand, too, I can also think about is like with the teachers is knowing about you can't remember what my telephone number is, huh? Because I've given it to you at least 4 or 5 times. But on the other hand, too, to knowing about what is really considered even about this whole activity, is knowing about that the things that teach us a lesson is knowing about is like, at least it's like the things that teach you a lesson are then between a printer and then of course is knowing about how it works. Is talking about is like so far as is getting to say is that knowing about it's like that And so far as goes by saying it's like, for a good lesson, for a lesson learned. But other than that, it's talk about it for an email school. And it's like talk about with the emails, elementary school email service, and talk about with the coloring.